Welcome to Circleville, Ohio, a small town where everyone knows your name and your secrets. But some secrets are darker than others. Some secrets stay hidden, until now. This is the story of the Circleville Letters, a tale of harassment, fear, and death. The story begins in 1976, with whispers, rumors, anonymous letters. They appeared in mailboxes across town, each letter filled with poison, exposing affairs, spreading lies, tearing lives apart. The townspeople were terrified. Who was behind these malicious messages, and what did they want? As the letters continued, one name was mentioned again and again: Mary Gillespie, a school bus driver, a wife, a mother. She became the writer's obsession. But why? What secrets did Mary Gillespie hold? And what lengths would the writer go to expose them? The letters arrived like clockwork, stuffed into mailboxes, under doors, even left on car windshields. No one was safe. The writer seemed to know everyone's secrets, their deepest fears. Friendships were shattered, marriages crumbled. The once peaceful town of Circleville was gripped by paranoia. The letters were often vulgar, filled with graphic language and disturbing threats. The writer claimed to have eyes everywhere, watching the townspeople, documenting their every move. But who was this mysterious figure? And what was their motive for tormenting the residents of Circleville? Sheriff Dwight Radcliffe vowed to find the culprit. But the letters offered few clues. They were typed on a common typewriter. No fingerprints were ever found. The residents were terrified to come forward, fearful of becoming the writer's next target. The story of the Circleville Letters quickly spread beyond the town's borders. Reporters descended upon Circleville, eager for a glimpse into the town consumed by fear. The whispers that once plagued the town had escalated into screams for justice. But would the writer ever be found? As months passed, the letters became increasingly fixated on Mary Gillespie. The writer accused her of having an affair with the superintendent of schools. They threatened to expose her, to ruin her life. Mary vehemently denied the accusations. But the letters persisted, growing more menacing by the day. The writer seemed determined to destroy Mary's life piece by piece. The relentless harassment took a toll on Mary's marriage. Ron Gillespie, her husband, struggled to cope with the accusations and the growing tension in their home. The writer knew how to push Ron's buttons, exploiting his insecurities and fueling his rage. Their once happy home became a battleground, poisoned by the words of an unseen enemy. The letters had driven a wedge between them, tearing their family apart. On August 19, 1977, tragedy struck. Ron Gillespie was driving his pickup truck when he crashed into a tree. The impact was catastrophic. Ron was killed instantly. He was 35 years old. Mary was devastated. But her grief was soon overshadowed by suspicion. Many in Circleville believed Ron's death was no accident. They whispered that the writer of the letters, driven by jealousy and rage, had murdered him. Had the writer escalated from venomous words to deadly action? The police launched an investigation into Ron's death. But the evidence was inconclusive. Was it a tragic accident fueled by Ron's distress over the letters? Or was it something far more sinister? Even in death, Mary couldn't escape the writer's torment. The letters continued, now filled with cruel taunts about Ron's demise. The writer seemed to revel in Mary's pain, reminding her that they were still watching, still in control. Mary was trapped in a nightmare, haunted by her husband's death and the relentless persecution of the Circleville letter writer. Who was this person who seemed to hold such power over Mary's life, even from the shadows? Months turned into years. The letters never stopped, but Mary Gillespie refused to be broken. She continued to drive her bus route, a symbol of defiance in the face of fear. One day, a letter arrived with a chilling proposal, a meeting. The writer wanted Mary to meet them at a designated spot on a deserted road. Fear warred with curiosity within Mary. Was this a chance to finally confront her tormentor, or was she walking into a trap? Mary decided to take a chance. She contacted Sheriff Radcliffe, and together they devised a plan. Under the cover of darkness, police officers fanned out around the desolate stretch of Route 41. Their eyes scanned the shadows, searching for any sign of movement. Mary, her heart pounding in her chest, sat alone in her car at the designated spot. The minutes stretched into an eternity as she waited for her tormentor to reveal themselves. Just as the shadowy figure reached Mary's car, a spotlight pierced the darkness. Police officers swarmed the scene, apprehending the suspect before they could react. Had they finally caught the Circleville letter writer? To everyone's shock, the suspect was not a stranger, but someone Mary knew, Paul Freshour, her former brother-in-law. The arrest sent shockwaves through Circleville. Paul had always maintained a close relationship with Ron, even after his divorce from Mary's sister. Now, suspicion and doubt clouded those past interactions. A search of Paul's home revealed a trove of potential evidence, a typewriter matching the font used in the letters, notebooks filled with handwriting samples, and even maps of Circleville with Mary's bus route meticulously highlighted. The evidence seemed overwhelming, but was it enough to finally close the book on the Circleville letters? Paul Freshour vehemently proclaimed his innocence, claiming he was being framed. He couldn't have written the letters, he argued, because he was in prison for a previous offense when some of them were sent. The prosecution presented their case, emphasizing the physical evidence and suggesting that Paul could have had accomplices. The defense countered with claims of planted evidence and unreliable witnesses. The jury deliberated for days, wrestling with the complex web of evidence and conflicting testimonies. The fate of Paul Freshour and the mystery of the Circleville letters hung in the balance. The verdict sent shockwaves through Circleville once again, leaving the town grappling with unanswered questions and a lingering sense of unease. The jury found Paul Freshour guilty. He was convicted of attempted kidnapping for the booby trap incident and sentenced to 10 years in prison. For Mary, it was a bittersweet victory. The man she once considered family was now exposed as a dangerous threat. Yet the shadow of the letters still loomed large. With Freshour behind bars, the town of Circleville dared to hope that the nightmare was finally over. But their hope would be short-lived. The letters continued. Even from his prison cell, Paul Freshour swore his innocence. He claimed he was not the author of the Circleville letters, and the letters kept arriving. The authorities were baffled. If Freshour wasn't the writer, then who was? And how could they be sending letters from behind bars? The letters themselves became even more menacing. They taunted the authorities, boasting about their ability to operate from within the prison walls. Circleville was once again plunged into fear. The nightmare they thought was over had returned with a vengeance. The continuation of the letters cast a long shadow over Freshour's conviction. Was he truly the Circleville letter writer, or was he a scapegoat, framed for a crime he didn't commit? Some believe that Freshour was wrongly accused, that the real writer used his vendetta against Mary to their advantage. Others remain convinced of his guilt, pointing to the evidence found in his home. The truth, like the identity of the Circleville letter writer, remained elusive. The evidence was there, but it was open to interpretation. The mystery continued. Paul Freshour was released from prison in 1994. He maintained his innocence until his death in 2012. The letters, however, stopped after his release. The Circleville letters remain one of the most baffling unsolved mysteries in American history. The identity of the writer, their motives, and their ability to evade capture continue to fascinate and frustrate investigators to this day. The town of Circleville bears the scars of its past. The fear, the suspicion, the unanswered questions linger like a ghost story whispered on a cold, dark night. The mystery of the Circleville letters remains unsolved, the writer still unknown. The gavel fell, the verdict echoed through the courtroom, and Paul Freshour, Mary Gillespie's former brother-in-law, was declared guilty of attempted kidnapping. The courtroom was filled with a tense silence, only broken by the collective gasp of those present. The weight of the decision hung heavily in the air, a culmination of years of fear and uncertainty. The charge, the booby trap intended for Mary. This device, a cruel and calculated instrument of harm, was the centerpiece of the prosecution's case. It was a stark reminder of the lengths to which someone had gone to instill fear and cause pain. The sentence, 10 years in prison. For a town desperate for answers, for a community held hostage by fear for over a decade, the verdict brought a sense of relief, a collective exhale. The judge's words, final and resolute, seemed to offer a promise of peace, a hope that the nightmare was finally over. Justice, it seemed, had been served. But had it? Mary, who had endured years of torment, whose life had been irrevocably altered by the venomous words of the Circleville letter writer, could finally breathe a little easier. The letters, filled with threats and accusations, had cast a long shadow over her life, a shadow that now seemed to be lifting. The man she once considered family, the man who had betrayed her trust in the most insidious way, was now behind bars. The betrayal cut deep, a wound that time might never fully heal. Paul Freshour's conviction was a stark reminder of the fragility of trust and the devastating impact of betrayal. Yet a profound sadness lingered in her eyes. The verdict, while offering a sense of closure, couldn't erase the scars of the past, couldn't bring back her husband Ron. The loss of Ron, a loving husband and father, was a wound that no verdict could heal. His absence was a constant reminder of the high price they had paid. The courtroom had delivered its judgment, but the true cost of the Circleville letters extended far beyond the walls of justice. The letters had sown seeds of distrust and fear, seeds that had taken root and grown, affecting every aspect of their lives. A life had been lost, a family torn apart. The grief was palpable, a heavy presence that lingered in the air. The funeral, a somber affair, was a stark reminder of the finality of death and the enduring pain of loss. A community left fractured and suspicious. The once tight-knit town was now a place of whispers and wary glances. Neighbors who once trusted each other now looked with suspicion, the letters having planted doubts that were hard to shake. And hanging over it all, a lingering question. Was Paul Freshour truly the mastermind behind the letters? Or was he merely a pawn in a much larger, more sinister game? The mystery of the Circleville letters remained, a puzzle with pieces that didn't quite fit, leaving everyone to wonder if the true culprit was still out there, watching and waiting. The verdict, rather than unifying the town of Circleville, seemed to deepen the existing divisions. The once tight-knit community found itself at odds, with neighbors turning against each other, and old friendships strained under the weight of suspicion and fear. Some residents, relieved that the ordeal was seemingly over, readily accepted Freshour's guilt. They believed that justice had been served, and hoped that the town could finally move on from the nightmare that had gripped it for so long. The evidence, they argued, was clear: the typewriter, the handwriting samples, the maps of Mary's bus route. To them, it was an open and shut case. Freshour was the culprit, and the town could breathe a sigh of relief. Others, however, harbored doubts. How could Freshour have sent letters while imprisoned for a previous offense? This question gnawed at the minds of many, casting a shadow of doubt over the entire case. The letters had continued to arrive, even with Freshour behind bars, and this inconsistency was hard to ignore. Was it possible that someone else was behind the letters all along? Someone who used Freshour as a scapegoat? A way to deflect suspicion? The idea that the real perpetrator was still out there, free to continue their campaign of terror, was a chilling thought. The letters, much to the town's collective horror, continued even after Freshour was safely behind bars. Each new letter was a stark reminder that the nightmare was far from over, and the sense of security that the verdict had briefly provided was shattered. Each new arrival reignited the flames of fear and suspicion. The townspeople found themselves trapped in a cycle of paranoia, unable to trust one another, and always looking over their shoulders, wondering who would be targeted next. If Freshour wasn't responsible, then who was? This question lingered in the air, unanswered, fueling the town's anxiety. The uncertainty was unbearable, and the lack of closure left a wound that refused to heal. Was it possible that the real Circleville letter writer was still out there, lurking in the shadows, watching, waiting, plotting their next move? The thought that the true culprit was still at large, observing the chaos they had created, was a terrifying prospect. Freshour, from his prison cell, maintained his innocence, claiming he was a victim of circumstance, framed for a crime he didn't commit. He insisted that he had been set up, that the real villain was still out there, free to continue their reign of terror. But his pleas fell on deaf ears. The town, weary and desperate for resolution, was unwilling to entertain the possibility that they had convicted the wrong man. They needed someone to blame, and Freshour fit the bill. The town, once eager to believe him, now viewed him with suspicion, their trust irrevocably broken. The seeds of doubt had been sown, and the community that had once stood together was now fractured and divided. The Circleville letter writer had not only terrorized a community, but had also managed to sow seeds of doubt and discord that would continue to plague the town for years to come. The legacy of the letters was a town forever changed, its people haunted by the specter of an unseen enemy, and the lingering question of who the true author of their misery was. Years turned into decades, and still, the mystery of the Circleville letters remained unsolved. The authorities, despite their best efforts, were unable to uncover any conclusive evidence that pointed to another suspect. The letters, sporadic at first, eventually ceased altogether, leaving behind a trail of unanswered questions, unhealed wounds, and a lingering sense of unease. The town of Circleville, forever linked to the infamous letters, struggled to move on. The case, a constant source of speculation and rumor, became a cautionary tale, a reminder of the darkness that can lurk beneath the surface of even the most idyllic communities. The Circleville letter writer, their true identity shrouded in mystery, became a local boogeyman, a whispered warning, a chilling reminder that some secrets, some mysteries, are never meant to be solved. The letters may have stopped, but the fear, the suspicion, the doubt, they lingered, woven into the very fabric of the town. The residents of Circleville, forever marked by the experience, learned to live with the uncertainty, the knowledge that the person who had terrorized their community, who had upended their lives, might still be out there, somewhere. Their identity, a secret forever locked away. (1994). Paul Freshour, having served his 10-year sentence, was released from prison. The world outside had changed, but so had Paul. The years behind bars had taken their toll, leaving him a shadow of the man he once was. He emerged a changed man, his spirit broken, his reputation tarnished. The once vibrant and confident individual was now a figure marked by the weight of his past. The accusations, the trial, and the years of confinement had left indelible scars. He maintained his innocence until his death in 2012, carrying the stigma of the Circleville letters with him to the grave. Despite his release, the shadow of suspicion never fully lifted. The letters had stopped, but the questions remained. The letters, as if signaling the end of an era, ceased after his release, adding another layer of complexity to an already perplexing case. The sudden silence was as mysterious as the letters themselves, leaving many to wonder if the true culprit had ever been caught. Mary Gillespie, the primary target of the writer's venom, found a way to rebuild her life. The letters had tried to break her, but she refused to be defeated. Drawing strength from the love of her family and the support of her community, she managed to piece together the fragments of her shattered world. Her resilience became a beacon of hope for those around her. The pain of her husband's death never fully subsided, but she faced each day with courage and determination. The loss was a wound that time could not heal, but her spirit remained unbroken. A testament to the resilience of the human spirit, Mary's journey was one of strength and perseverance. She found solace in small moments of joy and the unwavering support of those who loved her. The memory of Ron Gillespie, forever intertwined with the mystery of the Circleville letters, lived on in the hearts of those who loved him. His life, though marred by tragedy, was celebrated by those who remembered his kindness and strength. A reminder of the devastating consequences of fear, obsession, and the written word. The letters had wielded a power that was both terrifying and fascinating, a dark testament to the impact of anonymous threats. The Circleville letters, once a source of terror and intrigue, have faded into the annals of true crime history. Yet their legacy endures, a chilling reminder of the power of anonymity and the allure of unsolved mysteries. The letters serve as a stark reminder of how words can be used as weapons, capable of inflicting deep emotional wounds. The mystery of their origin continues to captivate those who delve into the case, each theory adding another layer to the enigma. And yet, amidst the darkness, the enduring strength of the human spirit in the face of adversity shines through. The community of Circleville, once gripped by fear, found ways to heal and support one another. The town of Circleville, forever marked by the experience, has found a way to move forward. The scars of the past remain, but they serve as a testament to the town's resilience and unity. Carrying the scars of the past but embracing the hope of a brighter future, the people of Circleville continue to live their lives, determined not to let the shadow of the letters define them. The mystery, however, endures. The unanswered questions and the lingering doubts keep the story of the Circleville Letters alive, a puzzle that may never be fully solved but will always be remembered.